Do you want to be worshipped by role-playing nerds? Do you want to make lyrics inspired by generic fantasy novels and Saturday morning fantasy cartoons? Do you want to have your role-playing hobby taken seriously? Then grab your sword, roll the dice, and get ready to make some power metal! I have the power metal! Power metal, a subgenre of heavy metal that's the embodiment of role-playing nerds' D&D campaign turned up to 11. It is grand, epic, fast, filled with lyrics about victory, self-belief, dragons, and vocals that reach the skies. It's a genre made by nerds for nerds. Power metal takes inspiration from early 70s heavy metal and 80s speed metal. Power metal can be traced back to the early days of metal where Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow and Ronnie James Dio's Dio both released songs with heavy fantasy themes, such as priest diving, rainbow fisting, apocalypse demon giving you some balls, and dragons. Dio himself probably got tired of making Beatles rip-off songs, so instead decided to become the god of metal. Now with a grand and epic legacy firmly planted within heavy metal's history. That and before Rainbow, he was in a band called Elf, and look at this album cover, it's gorgeous! There's also plenty of album bands that would become the blueprint for power metal tropes, like Iron Maiden with their galloping guitars and harmonies, and Judas Priest with Rob Halbert's high-pitched singing. Other influences include German metal bands like Accept and Scorpions, as well as Svenska Musikvän like Yngwie Malmsteen, whose entire career was entirely made up to exclusively show off his wanking skills. You're probably not asking right now, how can someone so good at shredding hate donuts?
I don't like fucking donuts, alright?
There's also the rare proto-power metal band from America, like Manila Road, Warlords, and let's never forget the oily greased himbos from Manowar. If Manowar doesn't put you in a good mood, you have no soul. Then, in the magical year of 1987, the band Halloween released Keeper of the Seven Keys. Part 1. Which is a landmark album with all of the early setups and tropes thrown into a wizard's cauldron, and thus the legend of power metal began. But right now I'm just trying to figure out who took my keys and which of these 7 is mine. Hey! Open up, it's cold and there's direwolves after me! There are plenty of noticeable bands and artists within this genre, like Blind Guardian, Hammerfall, Rhapsody, of Fire that is, Edguy, Avantasia, Arion, Freedom Call, and of course... Power metal is one of the few genres that has stayed relatively the same, while the only variation over the years has been adding other types of instruments, like orchestration with bands like Nightwish, folk elements like Elven King and Battlelore, synth and electronic elements like Beast in Black, Battle Beast, and Machine Supremacy, and even your local community a cappella group Van Canto. Then there are other bands who have taken the formula in different but fun directions, like Sabaton with a nerd got obsessed with Call of Duty instead of role-playing, Nano War of Steel who turned the power metal cheese factor up to 11 and beyond TP Tower of Pizza, Mono Inc. where the nerd is goth as fuck, and Power Wolf who takes the cheese, melts it in the microwave, and drenches it all over the Dark Souls games. Pointed that there's so much power metal that there's probably more bands out there than cheese. But just like cheese, it's good with everything. But for now, kings, queens, and emperors, it's time to go to war for an epic quest for power! Woo. Metal. Lyrics. Believe it or not, the lyrics are actually one of the most important aspects in this genre. It doesn't always have to be about glorious takes of fucking dragons and majesties. You could also write about more philosophical themes, like what the meaning of life is, or what separates the good from the bad, aka most of Camelot's songs and albums. But we're having fun here, so let's write a song about all the fun and nerdy stuff mentioned earlier. So the easiest way to get some inspiration is to read some fantasy books, but you're probably just gonna take some inspiration from the likes of Tolkien and George Ron Robin Martin. Well, maybe not anymore. Not like this! But if you want to be a bit original and craft your own fantasy world, then just play some D&D with your friends.
And so, band of brave heroes, you've been sent on an epic quest to free the village of Pagefire from the terror of the mighty dragon, Dumas. As you enter the village, you find the place in an uproar. Smoke and screams fill the air. The dragon sends forth an army of violent goblins that cuts down the villagers in a merciless way. So, band of brave heroes, I'd like for you to roll initiative.
Wait, what's a dragon?
Dragon these nuts!
But the most important part of writing power metal lyrics is that you don't have to take it all that seriously, as it is supposed to be performed like the most super serial thing in the universe. If you hear a power metal song and don't automatically think Kingdom of Grayskull fucks to this music, then you're not making power metal. The ultimate point to this is that if you're satirical and trying to write a fun power metal song, it will probably be seen as yet another serious entry into the genre. If you sing about a leprechaun that kills dragons and heroes, then pisses on their corpses while playing electric guitar while smoking a joint and doing sick backflips, it has to be delivered so seriously that everyone will think you meant every word of it. Although I do love the idea of someone earnestly headbanging to a power metal song about a pissing leprechaun bard. And if you think that's weird, wait until you hear about Dreamtale, a band that made songs about the New York stock market and butt sex. Not the same song. Hell, just check out Or No Gone, a band that made songs about winter survivors, swamp ladies, cowboys chasing vampires, and evil artificial intelligence. So power metal lyrics is kinda like a game of GURPS. The setting is up to you. For the album cover, make sure it looks like a fancy book cover or a painting with all the bright colors of Dio's rainbow. The cover needs to be eye-catching and epic. Or it can be super edgy, like one of those pathetic Grim Reaper t-shirts, only more bright and outlandish, so it can easily contrast with the death metal bargain bin. Then after the album cover comes the outfits. Dressed to kill! Dragons. So got any leftover LARP or Renaissance Fair costumes, or know a local nerd you can borrow from? Great! Then you already have your stage outfit. You could also just look like the most oily greased bodybuilder who got exiled from the gym from eating too many weights, a wizard who was thrown out of the art section of the library for drooling over Renaissance depiction of women, or if you're a fair lady, you can wear a fancy dress.
Dress go swish!
You can even dress like a dwarf, pirates, Vikings, primal warriors, superheroes? And of course, default setting. You can't just dress like a regular old metalhead. It's one of those few genres where as long as you have long hair, black clothing, and functional organs, then you're good to go! I'm sorry, Martin, but your wizard beard's too short, so I have to banish you to the Shadow Realm! No, you! Ah, forgot a Uno's more powerful than magic and therefore more powerful than friendship! Useless, useless, useless! Okay, the Shadow Realm is just my house. That's neat. Anyway, a lot of power metal bands, when it comes to the chord progressions, they stick to the minor scale and do the usual 1, 6, 7. You know, 1, 6, 7. Sometimes they do the fancy thing, like throwing in the 3 over there, like. Or like this. Sometimes you do the fancy thing, like starting on the 6, like this. But that's level 1 stuff for babies. You wanna be a real wizard, don't ya? Then follow me! Transition, 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 transition. Let's say we have a power metal song that's in D minor. But instead of starting on the 1, we start on the 3rd. That's where its major relative key is, F major. Relative key is basically the scale in the scale, so D minor has E Locrian, F major, D Dorian, etc, etc, blah blah blah. So you can, for example, start the song in the minor scale, and then when the chorus comes, switch to the major relative key and give the song a big uplift. Other fancy things you can do is play the relative key scale over the main key's chords, in this case F major scale over the D minor progression. It also works the other way around with D minor scale with F major progression. Speaking of guitar solos, also known as, are usually very melodic and bright. Then there's the occasional wank fest, but it's used for the top line and to let the melody shine on. You have to play with all the powers of a majestic dragon. And when you think about it, guitars and dragons are kind of similar, because they're both known for their scales. So shred fast like you're flying through the sky, or melodic like you're soaring into the sunset, where you unleash your inner Mozart demon. One thing that's very common in power metal is the use of orchestration. Some bands go full out with their orchestra like Luca Turilli and Camelot, while others just use it to add texture while giving the metal part some spotlight. But now, let's go over our power metal song. We set the tempo to 180 BPM for the best stats. The song was written with a very simple verse and chorus. The song is in D minor and the chorus is in F major to give it a big lift, like you're flying in the sky with a mighty beast, and you can't get wrong with an epic key change at the end. The drums are kept straightforward, with the occasional fancy parts and deep beat. On the chorus we added some ding ding dings instead of crashes so we could focus on the lyrics. With the guitars, we threw in as many cliché guitar tropes we could fit in. For the most part, it's just power chords, which feels fitting for power metal, and that's in gallops on verse 2 and harmonies on the bridge. And you can't go wrong with a nice melody that can be the soundtrack to your adventure. We also threw in a lead synth to add some extra layers. The bass is just following the guitar, like Sam following Frodo to Mordor with coconut shells while talking about potatoes.
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard!
You can't stop me! The strings are kept super simple, only to be in the background of the song, since the guitars and the synths are in the focus. For the lyrics, we wrote a simple but epic tale about a gang of warriors going out to fight a dragon, but instead, they tame the mighty beast and ride it into the horizon. It's cheesy, needlessly complicated, and totally not a metaphor for sex. And for the vocals, where someone brings out the nutcracker and everyone goes, you can't have a power metal band without some epic falsetto. So we summoned the powerful dragonborn bard Craig Cairns to lend us his mighty screams as our lead vocalist. For the choir, the Pagefire crew got locked up in a dark room and screamed into the microphone for a few hours.
Perfect.
We took a few solo shots and group shots just to add some extra layers into the main vocals. And now that the song is finished, we got a carrier owl to ship the stems to a mixing engineer and have them use real magic to make the song shine like the Excalibur. Cause I'm not doing it. I failed wizard school. And while you're at it, you can go on an epic quest for glory, honor, and cause you really need some cool mountain shots for the music video. So let's go, fellow nerds!
Adventure awaits all night. Now go Congratulations! You received a message from the king. The army is moving from the north, and they request your help. Go forth, my sons and daughters. Gather your weapons, set up for the long journey, and prepare to carry the torch of light.
I'll do it. I'll take the demo to Nuclear Blast.
You have my cords. And my bow. And my axe!